Hi, my name is Nicola Brown. I'm a pain management physiotherapist at the Great Western Hospital, and this video is all about activity management, some common traps that can occur and ways to overcome them.
This first video is about pain and activity management. So what we mean by activity is anything that we do in the course of a day. It can mean housework, hobbies, socialising, exercise, work, but also includes resting as well. So a really common thing that we see in people that are living with persistent pain is this overactivity cycle. So they perhaps do too much in one day or in one morning, they feel more pain and then they're forced to rest. And this can be over the course of a day, it can go over the course of a week, it can really vary in that time. It's also known as the boom-bust cycle, where you have good days and bad days, but essentially your pain is very up and down, and it's really hard to live with a pain cycle that looks like that. It's very hard to predict what your pain's going to be like tomorrow, and it's very hard to make plans in your daily life as well. So people commonly see themselves repeating the same pattern over and over again, and for most people, being in the overactivity cycle means that they end up doing less, especially as time goes on. And then what we also see is something called the fear avoidance cycle, where people are worried about the pain, so they avoid doing anything that they think might increase it. But by doing less, they become more and more deconditioned, and then when they do try and do something, it's more painful. But then that fuels further worries about the pain and fear of re-injury. So it's just doing less and less over time. So why do people stay in the overactivity cycle? It's a really common reaction that makes sense at the time. The activity is often enjoyable, or there's work that has to be done, and people like to go on until they finish things. There's a real sense of accomplishment. But often there are thoughts behind this as well. So things like, I've started so I'll finish. I'm not going to let this beat me. I should be able to do this. And it's just that 5 minutes more that pushes us into that overactivity cycle. So in order to start stabilising the boom-bust cycle, then we're going to introduce something we call the 3 Ps that you may have heard of before. So the first P is prioritise. So it's asking yourself what needs to be done and choosing the most important activities to be done that day, and working out perhaps what could be left till tomorrow or what somebody else perhaps could help with. But it's not also about just prioritising the chores or the things that have to get done. It's having that balance with your own hobbies and interests and time for yourself. The second P is plan. So it's planning your days out, planning your weeks out. So perhaps if you don't put too many activities that involve the same position close together. So thinking about your day involving a mix of standing, sitting and walking, and really breaking those things up. And the third P is pace, and that's about thinking little and often. So it's changing position before the pain starts to increase. Very commonly people wait until the pain gets worse and then that tells them to stop. But in our mind, that's already set off your pain system. That alarm is starting to go off, and by stopping then, the pain can take a few hours, the rest of that day, 2 or 3 days to settle down again. It's much better to stop beforehand. So it's almost preempting when that may happen, and we can help you to do that so we stop nice and early. So the key with balancing out this boom-bust cycle is trying to aim to do the same amount of activity each day, regardless of whether you're having a good day or a bad day, and really aiming for consistency. So trying not to do more when you feel better and then doing less when you feel that you don't feel so good. So it's really trying to help you be more consistent with that. And if you can start to get into the cycle of doing moderate activity with more limited rest, hopefully the benefits that you'll see is that there are less extreme flare-ups, you're not relying so much on medication, you're not needing to rest for as long, you're feeling more stable and hopefully better in yourself as well. So in the activity rest cycle, you're in control of your life. So just understanding that these are broad principles, and in a one-to-one session, it would be much more personalised to your own lives, and we use diaries to help us with that, and we go into a lot more detail.
So after watching these videos today, it would be really useful before your appointment here if you can think about how any of these things are relevant in your own lives, and if you can start to implement any of the techniques that we've talked about. If you'd like to know some more, there are some useful links at the bottom of this page, where you can also call the physiotherapy department here if you have any questions. But obviously we look forward to meeting you. Thanks for now.